let us begin with yet another interesting session of biology. In last lesson, we have studied about the cells, their structure, their function, their shape, their size, their parts, the cell organelles, detailed structure about the cell organelles, different types of cells like plant cells and animal cells. So in detail, we have studied about the lesson cell. Now, we are going to start with the next level of organization in organisms. Yes, we have studied about the organization in organisms, right? The basic level in the basic structure always is the cell. Cell is the basic unit of life. Then many cells gather together and form a tissue, right? They perform similar function and they may be similar in structure or dissimilar in structure and perform similar function. They are called as tissues. Okay, so it is the next level of organization, that is nothing but tissues. And when many tissues come together, they form an organ. When many organs come together, they form an organ system, and many organ systems come together and form an individual. So this is how at the higher levels the organization go on. So we are going to study the second level of organization, and that is nothing but tissues. So tissues are of various types and they are made up of cells. Yes, cell is the basic unit of life. So these cells in unicellular organisms, if we see in amoeba, in paramecium, all these single cell, all the functions are performed by the single cell, like respiration, digestion, reproduction, excretion. All these life processes are performed by a single cell. That is nothing but unicellular organism. But in multicellular organisms, these cells are specialized, are specially designed for performing together these functions. Okay, like in human beings, if you all consider, like in lungs, the cells gather together for formation of tissues, and these tissues perform the various functions of lungs. Like in stomach or intestine, such kind of tissues are present and they just combine with each other and form the similar function. Like if they are present in digestive system, they are going to perform the digestion. If they are going to present in the respiratory system, they are going to perform the process of respiration. So this is how tissues are designed by the types of cells. They may be similar or dissimilar types of cells. So now we will see the definition of tissues. So what are tissues? Tissues are actually the group of cells which are structurally and functionally similar or dissimilar, and they are actually gathered together so as to give the higher efficiency of the function they perform. They give the highest efficiency of their work. That's why they gathered together. These cells gathered together and performed their function at their highest efficiency. So they are called as tissues. I hope you understood the definition of tissues. With reference to the functions they perform, they are actually categorized, they are actually grouped into two different groups. Okay, depending upon what kind of function they perform, they are grouped into two different groups, like plant tissues and animal tissues. So there are two different groups, plant tissues and animal tissues. So plant tissues or animal tissues, how they are grouped into these two groups depending upon the functions they perform. Like plant tissues have different functions to perform and the animal tissues have different functions to perform. Why? Because plants are stationary. They don't move from one place to other place. So that's why their requirements for their growth and development are different than that of the animals. And animals move around in search of food and they have different feeding habits than that of the plants. That's why their tissues are totally different than that of the plants. Even plants have different adaptations and animals have different adaptations. That's why their tissues are totally different from each other. So, we are going to study this lesson under these two main topics, that are nothing but first is the plant tissues and second is the animal tissues. So, let us begin with the first topic, that is nothing but plant tissues. These plant tissues, as I have told you, there are different parts in the plants like stems, roots, leaves, flowers, fruits. These are the different parts of the plants, and actually depending upon these parts, their tissues are also of different types. And what kind of functions these tissues are going to perform, depending upon that, they are also of different types. So let us study with the plant tissues. So plant tissues are of two types. First is meristematic tissues. Okay, just remember the name, meristematic tissues, and second are permanent tissues. Now what is this? Why they are different? Depending upon what basis they are different, we will see. Meristematic tissues are the tissues which are dividing tissues in the plant. They keep on dividing and redividing. Okay, and they are present at a particular location in the plant. So, first we will see their types. There are three types of meristematic tissues: apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissue, and lateral meristematic tissue, which is also called as cambium. It is also called as cambium. So, these three are the types of meristematic tissues. Now we will see the second type, that is permanent tissues. So these meristematic tissues, when matured, they get converted into permanent tissues. Okay, when they are immature, when the cell division is going on, they are meristematic tissues. Once their cell division is complete and they are mature, they get converted into permanent tissues. So there are two different types of permanent tissues: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. And they also have different types. As we proceed in our sessions, we are going to learn them in detail. Now you just remember the names. Simple permanent tissues are of three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And complex permanent tissues are of two types: xylem and phloem. You might be knowing about the xylem and phloem because you have studied them a little in 7th standard. Okay, so these are the various plant tissues which we are going to study in detail. We will just go through their names once again. Plant tissues, there are two types: meristematic plant tissues and permanent plant tissues. Meristematic plant tissues are of three types: apical meristematic tissues, intercalary meristematic tissues, and lateral meristematic tissues, which are also called as cambium. Then second type is permanent plant tissues. Permanent plant tissues are of two types: simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissues are of three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And complex permanent tissues are of two types: xylem and phloem. So these are the different names of plant tissues which we are going to study in detail. Now today we are going to start with the first plant tissue, that is nothing but meristematic tissue. So meristematic tissues, as I have told you, these are dividing tissues. That means these cells goes In last lesson we have studied about the cell division, meiosis and mitosis. These are the two different types of cell divisions, right? So here the cell division takes place. Meiosis type of cell division is observed in plants. So these meristematic tissues which are present at the tip of roots and shoots, okay, mostly these are present at the tips of roots and shoots. That means in the growing stem, in the tip of that growing stem, these meristematic tissues are present, and in the tip of the root, these meristematic tissues are present. So these are dividing tissues. They undergo the cell division process, and they are present at a particular locations in the plant, because plants show growth only in that particular points. It is unlike the animals. Animals show growth in all their possible parts, right? Whereas plant grow only at the particular points. They grow at the tips of roots and shoots. They grow in the internodes. Internodes means where the branches of flowers or fruits come and attach to the main stem. That is nothing but internode. Or they grow around the main stem, around the main branch of the plant. So this is how in particular regions the growth of the plant is observed, and these meristematic tissues are located in these particular parts. They are present in the tips of roots and shoots. They are present around the main stem or main branch of the plant, or they are present in the internodes, which are nothing but where actually the small stems, the small branches attached to the main stem of the plant, that areas they are present. These are also called as growth tissues because they are especially involved in the process of growth of the plants. So they are called as growth tissues. And as I have earlier told you that there are three types of these meristematic tissues. First is apical meristematic tissue. Second is intercalary meristematic tissue. And third is lateral or cambium. So first we will see apical meristematic tissue. It is present in the tips of stems and the roots. In the tips of roots and shoots. It is mainly responsible for the growth of roots and the growth of growing points of the stems. So they are responsible for the growth of the plant, and they are present in the tips of roots and shoots. So they are called as apical. Api means in the end or at the endmost part of the plant. So they are apical. Second is intercalary. Intercalary means in between the nodes and the internodes, where actually the branches meet the main stem. That area is the internode, and in that area these intercalary meristematic tissues are present. They go on dividing and redividing for formation of new branches, for giving the support to the leaves, giving support to the fruits, giving support to the flowers. So they are helpful in that. Then they are also helpful in elongation of the stem. The middle part of the stem, with the help of apical, the tips can be grown. But what about the middle part? So middle part of the stem is elongated, is grown with the help of intercalary tissues. Then the third is lateral meristematic tissues or cambium. They are present around the main stem of the plant. Okay, they have formed one layer around the main stem of the plant and responsible in increasing the diameter of the main stem, main branch of the plant. When the plants are huge, tall, and they need to bear the large branches, then they need to have the strong main stem, and that is done with the increasing the diameter of that stem, and that is done with the help of the cambium or with the help of the lateral meristematic tissues. Now we are going to see their location with the help of a diagram, and this diagram you are going to draw with the notes in your notebook. So here, suppose this is the main stem. Then the tips of the shoot, at the tips of the shoot, this is apical. Then in the internodes, where the branches meet to the main stem, here the intercalary meristem is present, and so as to increase the girth around the plant, around the main stem, the lateral meristem is present. So this is how the meristematic tissues are located in the plant. Apical tissue is present at the tip of roots and shoots. Intercalary is present in the internodes, where the small twigs or the fruits and flowers meet to the main branch, and the lateral is present around the main branch so as to increase the diameter, and it is called as girth of the plant. So as to increase the girth of the plant, these lateral meristematic tissues are very, very helpful. So this is how the meristematic tissues, the dividing tissues, are helpful in elongation, in growth, and in giving support to the other parts of the plant. I hope you understood the meristematic tissues in the plants. So this is how we have completed the first type of plant tissue, that is nothing but meristematic tissue. Thank you.